So what's good, Straw Gang, and welcome back to another video. In tonight's Warzone tips and tricks upload, I'm going to be discussing how to get 20 plus kills in Warzone, specifically in solos because that's what this gameplay is, so a bit of a heads up for the gameplay. We've got a 22 kill solo win with the Fara 83. And I'm going to be discussing a lot of things throughout this gameplay and talking over what I'm doing, certain things to, make sure you go for, do's and don'ts and that type of stuff. But I've written down quite a lot of good things here that I do think will genuinely help you guys with, getting more high kill games. But of course, as I'm going to start saying more and more in my tips and tricks videos, that these are just tips and tricks to help you get there. Of course, you can't just listen to me say the things I'm going to say and then boom, instantly, the game after you watch this video, you're going to get a high kill game. These are just tips and tricks to help you along your way and pointing out things that you may or may not have thought about previously, right? So just helping you get to that 20 plus kill game. There'll also be video chapters on the timeline down below if you not only want to see what I'm showcasing in the video, but skip to anything specific as well. So I'm not going to necessarily be breaking down the gameplay, but what I'm going to do is have the gameplay playing in the background for me, and I'm just going to reference things here and there, what's going on at the time, and breaking things down as we go, but not as a full in detail gameplay breakdown. So as you guys are about to see here, I pick off a double kill at TV station, which doesn't happen very often. Pretty lucky, to be honest, but hey, that's the game of a battle royale, right? You get lucky, you don't. And I got lucky with two easy picks right there. Now, by me landing at TV station, I feel like this is a really good example of not necessarily having to land at a high populated POI to go on to get a 20 plus kill game. I've had many 20 plus kill games landing at a place like TV station or Boneyard when it isn't in favor of the helicopter route or whatever. I go ahead and notice that someone did try to shoot me as well, so it's a simple spin around and pick this guy off, right? I was confident he had a sniper and I was pretty confident that I could pick him off. So we're already at 3 kills with 136 people. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend landing at TV station because it doesn't happen too often where I can leave with 4 or 5 kills. It's kind of like it's a 50-50, you either go there and get decent amount of kills or you see no one. That's kind of how a TV station is, but it's an area I really like landing at. And 9 times out of 10 as well, if there's a buy store near you, which in this case it was right next to me at the tower, you will be able to loot up enough cash to go on to get a loadout and possibly a UAV as well. Now moving on to the next thing, UAVs and bounties are very important with solos and getting high kill games. Now the reason that is it's kind of self-explanatory, but for me personally, my solo games often die very, very quickly. I have to be quite swift and quick with my early games, making sure I've got my kills, I don't waste too much time, I get my UAV, I get my loadout, I get a vehicle and go. A reason that bounties are really good as well is because throughout the game as you get them, they will constantly give you someone to always go to, even if they end up on a roof. You can kind of use bounties to gauge where people might be. If you pop a UAV and there's not too many people in your area, you're able to grab a bounty, go to where they are, and then hopefully you're able to get another UAV or just pick people off from that general direction. So that's another thing as well. You don't want to be wasting your UAVs because sometimes I've popped a UAV, there's been not many people around, and then I'll pop another one too close to where I just did it, and I kind of go and waste it. So make sure if you pop a UAV and there's not many people around, you go at least like a couple 100 meters away from where you originally popped it, so you can cover more ground and have a better chance at finding more people to pick off, right? So bounties and UAVs, they go hand in hand. You can keep that cash flow going with bounties. You can constantly have a person to push and be constantly active within your game, and then if you do go on to kill them or the bounty runs out, you will get a bit of a cash reward for it ending. So you can constantly keep the cash flow going as well as a person to always push, and they just work perfectly hand in hand, especially for solos. Like I said, for me personally, they die very quickly, and sometimes I even have trouble going for those 20 kill games just because out of the blue, there's only 30 or 40 people left in the second circle, which is fucking atrocious. That's not helpful at all. The next thing's pretty simple, but it goes hand in hand with the UAVs and bounties, and that is trying to make sure that you have a vehicle with a trophy, preferably a Bertha or an SUV. The vehicle you're most likely to get shot out of is a Rover because it's so open, it's so easy to track people as they're driving by. So a Bertha or an SUV is ideal, but having trophies on your vehicles allows you to be rushing, aggressive, constantly pushing people, like I said. So another thing I really want to talk about here is properly picking your gunfights and picking and choosing where you're going to go and where you're not going to go. So let's talk a little bit about that. What I mean is, say you pop a UAV, right? And those 2 really tall buildings that have a buy in the middle of them that is kind of next to super-ish, kind of coming from train station, you know, those really two tall buildings. Let's say you pop a UAV, right? And there's two people on one of the buildings, but in the distance, you see someone that's on like a maybe 1 or 2 story building or out in the open. Both of those buildings have tall staircases. Most of the time, you're going to get there and one of the persons are being killed by now. So what I would recommend and what I always do is avoid rooftop players. They're only going to slow you down. I've had a lot of bad experiences with people that camp on buildings. One of the most common things is I'll be going up the staircase, running to them, right? And then they jump off the top as soon as I get there, and they've wasted, 40 seconds of my time or more of me just, walking up this staircase trying to get to them, and I could have been driving off to someone and getting a kill, right? So you have to pick and choose your gunfights and your engagements wisely. Don't want to be wasting your time, like I said. Solos die quickly, so prioritize people that are either out in the open, out in the field, or just not in a building or in a place that will take a lot of your time up. Another small thing that I just wanted to bring up here, I personally do not go for self-reses until kind of late-ish game, maybe around 30-40 people left. It kind of just depends on the game itself, but because self-reses cost around the same amount as a UAV, you either get a self-res or a UAV. And for me personally, the self-res in solos can definitely be helpful, but a lot of the time a UAV and knowing where people are around you to get those extra kills and help you get that 20 bomb, having that ability over a self-res that won't really help you unless you're far away from someone. If you get sniped from a building in downtown and you're able to get to cover and self-res before they get to you, or you're in a long range gunfight where you're out in the woods and someone has to run very far to you, and you get to self-res before they get to you, right? Like self-reses and the bigger picture of getting a 20 bomb, you're being aggressive, you're running in and out of buildings, you're just constantly pushing people, popping those UAVs, and those engagements in a building engagement where you're 10 meters in front of someone, a self-res is not going to help you with that. Prioritize getting your UAVs, and then once it gets later on in the game, around maybe 20-30 people is when I'd say I get a self-res, unless, like I mentioned before, you've just got a fat bankroll, right? You've got lots of bounties, you've successfully killed people, you've collected the cash from those people you've killed, and you might be sitting on 30 cash. Like I've done lots of bounties, I've stacked up like 50,000 cash before. Like if you have enough money to buy a UAV, hold one, and get a self-res, go for it. There's no reason you shouldn't. Alright, so next up, I just wanted to give some tips about late game. Say you're in top 10, right? You're in the last final 10 players, and you've got 17 kills. That's absolutely great, right? You only need 3 kills, and that is most definitely achievable, but that can only be achievable in certain situations. If you're in downtown, right, and there's multiple high-story buildings, it's just going to take too long to get to people. What I do recommend at that point is being aggressive and trying to get to people as much as you can. In my case, with the end zone that I had, there were no buildings that had more than like 4 stories, right? So I felt comfortable with not being too aggressive and just kind of holding back a little bit, because that's the thing that I feel like is a mistake a lot of people would make. Being too aggressive, you're like, oh my god, there's only 10 people left, I quickly need to get 3 kills, and you end up choking and being too aggressive. So it just kind of depends on your late game situation. If it's something where you don't feel like you can pick off 3 kills quick enough, be aggressive, do as much as you can to get that. But if you're in a situation and an end zone where you're like, okay, I feel like I can pick enough kills off here, slow back a little bit and just just play a little bit passive and pick people off, right? Be a bit more safe with it, because you don't want to end up dying 3 kills off of your 20 bomb because you were too aggressive, right? So just kind of that's something you'll learn over time, picking and choosing what you're going to do with what zones you have. Me, for example, at the point that I'm watching the gameplay, I had 14 kills with 12 left or 13 left, so I knew that I had to pick off about 6 kills, which is around half the lobby, and I was being as aggressive as possible until I got around to the 17-18 mark, and I'm kind of chilling at that point. And I most definitely will admit that I was a little bit lucky with my end zone. A lot of the time, everyone in my end zone is ghosted, and I had about 4 or 5 people that were visible on the minimap. Even if they did have ghost, I had an idea of where people were, but a lot of the time people will be ghosted, and that's coming back to what I said before, feeling out the area, deciding on whether you need to be aggressive or hold back a little bit. Because I can't tell you how many times someone's camped in a building with ghost in a corner, 5 kills in top 10. You know, I'm a couple off my 20 bomb and they kill me, right? So it's picking and choosing your engagements based on your end zone and whether people are ghosted heavily or not. Positioning also comes into it pretty heavily in end game as well. You guys will see that the building I was in was pretty much the best place I could be. It was the tallest building, it was the biggest, so I had a lot of room to move around. I didn't have to be, you know, cooped up in a corner, just ADSing a door or something like that where someone could easily just bunny hop around a corner and absolutely destroy me. You don't want to be in a little shack or something beside a tree. You know, you want to be a little bit closer to where the zone is so you don't have to rotate too heavily. You know, I did get a little bit lucky in this end zone because the building that I was in actually had like a tiny little corner of it that allowed me to not be in gas, and then when the zone moved, it was in favor of me and I was still able to stay on that building. So, you know, end game comes down to a bit of luck. Of course, that's battle royales in general, whether you're able to get into a better position, if the gas is in your favor, all that type of stuff. And that's things that you kind of just have to deal with. You know, you have to figure out what you have to do within the moment, right? So here we are at the end game. And as you can see, the zone was in favor of me. I didn't have to expose myself out in the open. I didn't have to push where people could pick me off. Like I said, man, not too many people were ghosted in this end zone, and it just made it a lot easier for me to pull out my heartbeat and figure out where at least one of them were. At least one of them. The last guy was ghosted, and then the gas ended up killing him. Thankfully, I did get the kill for that. I'd have been really annoyed if it didn't count it, but it did. All it was just me heartbeating around to find out if the person who was last in the lobby, you know, the 1v1, was around me or not, whether they were ghosted, all that type of stuff. Thankfully, I heard their footsteps. I was able to pick them off, you know, they didn't click onto me being on the roof, and it was just an easy pick off from high ground. And that's another thing as well. High ground is a big deal. You want to be on a building, on a higher area, even though it's like campy and stuff like that. Look, dude, the way I look at it is if you've got 18, 19 kills within the game and you're just trying to pick off those last couple to secure that 20 bomb, camp it out. Absolutely. The time I get pissed off when people rooftop camp and end zone is when they've got 5 or 6 kills. They've been barely active in the game, you know. Like I had 8 kills when there was 70 people left. There's no way you're that fucking much of a boring player where you have only 6 kills in the last fucking 5 people of the game, right? Out of 150, and you've only got 6 kills. Like, what the fuck are you doing, right? If you only need those last couple kills, you're camping on the roof to secure those. Doesn't matter. You've done a good amount of aggression and movement. You've gone around the map and got your kills. You deserve to sit on that fucking rooftop and secure that 20 bomb, baby. Positioning is very important. High ground is as well, as you will see at some point in this gameplay whenever I'm talking about it. I look down, I kill the dude, I secure that easy dub. So we've come to the end of the gameplay. I've done a ton of talking. I hope that the tips I mentioned in this were helpful. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see more tips and tricks uploads here for Warzone, helping you improve at the game, don't forget to leave a like and support the video, as well as supporting the channel itself by hitting that red sub button down below with post notifications on. On top of that, I'm uploading every single day this month, so there's so much content for you to come back and check out every single day. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody, and I'm out.